we can get started now.
Yeah, sure. I'm glad to see everyone here today. Thank you all for joining. Very excited to be hosting this webinar with you all. But today we're going to be explaining how us at Phoenix Business Consulting can assist you with your SAP ECC to SAP S4 migration using our tool, our Smart Transfer tool. But going into this, I just want to give a brief introduction before we get into a demonstration of this Smart Transfer tool, but also for the rules and engagement for today's webinar. If you look down below, there's going to be that button for a Q&A. If at any point you have a question about what we're showing you today, please feel free to put a question in there, and we'll be very happy to answer those at the end of this webinar. But from that, your mics will be muted for the call. And like I said, feel free to put those questions there, and we'll be happy to get to them. But let's get into this here. Before we jump off, I just want to go over our agenda for today's webinar as well. So we're going to start off with an introduction of the Phoenix team, as well as just an overview of our company. Then we'll go into Phoenix Smart Transfer, the pre-assessment overview, and that'll be briefly, and then we'll show a demonstration of the tool itself. And once we're done from there, we can go over those Q&A questions that you have and go over some next steps. So from there, I would like to hand this call off over to our president and CEO, Hanif Sarangi, for introductions.
Thanks, Dustin. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I see we have a really nice group of attendees. Currently, over 60 people have joined our webinar. Thank you very much. I don't want to take too much time on introductions. This is the team that will be presenting today and answering your questions. I'd like to point out Rainer Zinnow. Rainer is the former senior head of SAP product development in SAP Germany for small and mid-sized companies. He was in charge of product development for SAP products, including the S4HANA public cloud and other SAP products. As he joined Phoenix, he brought with him some of his colleagues from SAP Germany that helped develop some of these tools. For example, Jürgen Sattler. Jürgen will be presenting our pre-assessment tool today. Jürgen was formerly the head of SAP development helped in cloud development and things like he helped set up things like SAP IMG, SAP OSS, and other SAP tools. So he brought with him and his colleagues, they brought their expertise to help develop these tools for Phoenix. So we have some proprietary tools, which he will be demoing today. Going to the next slide, presenting will be Madhu, Jürgen, and Sharath, and Lucien. And we will all be joining in the question and answer to help answer any questions that you might have. Just quickly, introduction of Phoenix. We are an SAP Gold partner. Dustin, if you want to go to the next slide. Yes, we're an SAP Gold partner, and we have been in business for over 27 years. We have over 350 customers on ECC, and we service a lot of different types of industries. Some of the industries that we service include public sector, commercial, and other industries. And we're based all over the world, including the US, Canada, also in Switzerland, France, and other European countries, and in India. Going to the next slide. At Phoenix, we sell and implement all of these different SAP products, including S4HANA Public Cloud. We're doing a lot of ECC to S4HANA migrations these days. SAP SuccessFactors, Concur, Ariba, and so on. Some of the learnings from our ECC to S4HANA migrations have been put into the tools that we're going to demonstrate today. A lot of the earlier ECC to S4HANA migration projects, we had a lot of lessons learned, and we identified tools that could help us, and then we developed these tools, and we're bringing these tools to you in this demonstration. So I'd like to pass it on to Sharath to go through an overview of our one of our tools, which is the pre-assessment tool. We actually have a number of different tools that can also help with data migration, such as transferring data, data cleansing, data archiving, changing things like account codes historically. But today we're going to focus on our pre-assessment tool. Sharath?
Hey, thanks, Hanif. Thanks, Hanif. Welcome all again. Happy to see the large attendance here. For the next few minutes, me and my fellow colleagues will give you a quick walkthrough on the pre-assessment tool from Phoenix, as we call it, Phoenix Smart Transfer, and its capabilities. Dustin, next slide. Yeah. So basically, Phoenix emphasizes activate methodology as part of your S4 journey. So during this, the pre-assessment tool plays a pivotal role as part of the discover phase in the S4HANA journey. So what are the capabilities that we are talking for this tool? It starts with evaluating or generating a detailed scope of your current ECC system. This is where it allows us to evaluate your current system in detail, as well as automating discovery of certain existing solutions, the corresponding processes, and the scope items under each of those processes. Subsequently, it would also flag your existing custom developments and works as a custom code analyzer too, which will feed into the further phases of the project, which are prepare, explore, and realize. As part of the prepare and explore phase, where the major groundwork is already set for conducting accelerated fit to standard workshops, and subsequently, the outcome of these workshops translates into fit gap analysis and then drives the necessary remediations and extensions required for your S4HANA transformation. Overall, by the time we reach the deploy phase, the groundwork laid by the pre-assessment tool kind of minimizes any risk, as well as the overall time that it takes for this journey. And it kind of smoothens out the pathway to go live and makes the go live overall more predictable. To sum up, the pre-assessment tool, it's not just a diagnostic tool that we are offering. It's more of a strategic accelerator that powers your entire migration lifecycle and turning uncertainties to more informed actions. Move on. Yeah, to start off with, the pre-assessment tool basically lays a foundation in terms of what's required for a smart migration. That's where it's going to do or collect a lot of data from your existing ECC system. And when we say collects data, I just want to iterate that it's not going to touch any of your master or transaction or any personal or secured data. It's more of system data that the tool is going to collect from your system. It starts off with the usage analysis, which gives us an overall idea of your ongoing ECC transaction processes involved. Subsequently, it also gathers the existing configuration from the system, something like number ranges or anything that's needed for material ledger kind of a configuration, or document splitting as part of your finance process, which kind of changed as part of the S4HANA. Subsequently, it also focuses on the security roles involved. As we said, security role is not just a technical aspect, correct? Because it has its own role to play in terms of having a more secure environment, hence it becomes more like a strategic one. That's where the tool has its own analysis done in terms of the existing tools as part of the data collection activity that it performs. Also, it also collects your existing system details, which goes with your existing operating system, the database, the ECC versions, or the enhancement add-ons that you have, any third-party add-ons you have, the current sizing of your ECC system. And from there, it also collects your existing customizations or extensions, as we call it. That's where it focuses on your RISE-F objects, typically your reports, interfaces, any modifications, user exit, enhancements, workflows, or forms as part of your output management that exist in the system. And lastly, it also focuses on the integration artifacts, which are basically your interface points, where I'm sure most of your ECC systems are not just standalone. They are talking to several external systems, both SAP and non-SAP. This is where it's going to collect more data on in terms of the kind of IDOC types you're using, or maybe the RFCs, or if you're using process orchestration, the ESR content related to the process orchestration. This is all it collects. Overall, to summarize, it focuses on these major 6 pillars as part of the smart assessment, and subsequently, it's going to give you more of an actionable view of the environment. Move on. Once the data is collected, the next step is to perform some analysis on the data that's been collected. That's where the tool takes this to a next step, where it's going to do an analysis of all the ECC transactions programs that are existing, and then their compatibility, as well as classify them for their relevance to the ongoing business processes or the day-to-day operations. As well as it also reviews your existing configurations, which is critical during your ECC to S4HANA migration. For example, you have something like a material ledger, which is a mandatory setup that you cannot avoid as part of inventory valuation in your S4HANA journey, or document splitting that needs another configuration review as part of your finance process. Also, it also gives you its own analysis about the existing system add-ons that is on the ECC, whether it's SAP or non-SAP. To quote on, for example, you have your system using some of your industry-specific solutions. So it's going to use that data, come up with an outcome on what needs to be done for such add-ons. Likewise, it also evaluates your custom code developments and then further classifies them in terms of retire versus replace versus remediate, which we are going to see further in the next few slides. Move on. The pre-assessment tool would have completed by this time based on the data that's collected and the deep dive analysis. It's going to synthesize all these insights and going to come up with certain few actionable recommendations. That starts with identifying the necessary solutions that can work or are compatible as part of your S4HANA core. And it also provides certain recommendations on the existing add-ons. For example, you're using SRM as part of your process, and now you're on S4HANA, then the suggested way is to go through the Ariba and use sourcing and procurement as part of your Ariba. Or for example, some of your HR add-ons like your recruitment or appraisals. Moving on to S4HANA, the SAP proposes alternate solutions for such add-ons. So this is where the tool is giving you all such actionable insights, which can be further evaluated and considered for a smoother S4HANA journey. Likewise, it also flags or identifies the transactions that are depicted. For example, transaction codes for customer master, vendor master, they are now deprecated as part of usage in S4HANA. That's where it's going to flag if they are being used or being used as part of your any customizations in the ongoing ECC environment. Furthermore, it's going to scope out your processes and map the corresponding scope items against each of these processes against the standardized scope items from S4HANA. S4HANA has vast number of scope items that could be done, but there could be only few that become relevant for you as part of your ongoing ECC process. That's where this tool is going to give you that recommendations that these are the scope IDs or scope items that become relevant once you're onto S4HANA. Lastly, it focuses again on the security roles where it can come up with certain recommendations where you could have 100 or 300 odd roles, but in reality, when you want to optimize, you might just need 50 or 60 of them. That means the tool is looking at how well you could reorganize your existing roles, whether I'm sure as part of your ECC process, you would have created several of those Z roles. That's where this tool comes as a savior, where it's going to crunch or merge or eliminate some of those roles based on the system usage. Move on. Lastly, it arrives at the critical step of custom code mitigation, as we call it, or custom code migration. This is where having covered the core processes or standard functionalities subsequent to your system analysis, it focuses on classifying your existing custom developments primarily into three categories: retire, remediate, or replace. Retire is where we have made a decision that it's not needed or the object needs to be eliminated. Remediate, the object is being flagged as business critical, but there's no equivalent for it in S4HANA. That's where it kind of not just flagging it as a issue, but rather the tool has the ability to propose the approach or the solution that you could take in terms of how this object could be remediated or adjusted as per S4HANA's data architecture or the data model. Lastly, replace. This is where it's going to again, propose or recommend the advanced or modern capabilities of S4HANA. And lastly, it kind of gives you a ballpark estimate of the overall efforts needed as part of your custom code migration. Subsequently, once these customizations are identified, this makes or accelerates your fit to standard workshops and the corresponding fit gap analysis workshops that we would be performing with you, because we already know what custom objects you have, which are to be retained, which are to be replaced. And then the next step is to map them to each of those individual process areas. And finally, arrive at a backlog of all the items that needs to be performed or adjusted or implemented as part of the S4HANA. And one of the key functionality, the recommendation that it's going to make, like enhancements or the rise of objects, right? Enhancements or extensions. It's going to give you more an approach or based on the clean core philosophy. I'm sure most of you have heard about clean core philosophy in a lot of forums. That's where SAP is primarily focusing S4HANA as a solution, where it would want all the extensions or any customizations to be built outside the system. That way you're removing any upgrade dependencies and all your customizations or extensions are scalable. Lastly, forms, which again fall into a critical area of your ECC, right, as part of your output management, especially in sales or procurement processes or finance processes as customer correspondence, etc. That's where this tool also has the capability flag the existing outputs as well as recommend what's the replacement for them. That's what this tool can give you as a recommendation. And lastly, from interface points or the integrations, as we call them, to external, whether it's SAP or non-SAP, again, the tool is going to come up with valid recommendations, leveraging the existing S4HANA API library. That way, you're actually modernizing your integrations and making them future-proof. And as an upcoming feature that's right now in progress is predominantly on workflows and the reporting that you have. Workflows, the tool is being currently built as an upcoming feature where it could try to map your existing ECC workflows against the responsibility framework or the architecture that you have in S4HANA, as well as the ABAP reports or SQL queries or any report items that you have as part of your report painter objects, which are kind of critical. And I know that still exists to be a pain point when you do a migration to a newer system. This is where the tool is going to feed information about the replacement CDS views, which is the newer data model that's available in S4HANA, as well as some of the advanced tools or the analytical tools of S4HANA. Overall, to summarize, the outcome of these tools would give you a more cleaner roadmap and leaner system landscape once you move on to future S4. Moving on, I'll hand over this to my colleague, Madhu, to take over.
Yeah, thank you, Sharath. Again, just to summarize, probably a lot of tools in the market, and also SAP also has this readiness check tool. Some of you probably have heard this tool, correct? And I'm sure in your S4HANA journey, at some point of time, you would have to actually use that tool that also discovers some information from your existing system. But what is actually this assessment tool is going to give you more than the readiness check? So on all the aspects that Sharath has touched upon, for example, system analysis, readiness check does give you solutions, add-ons, but it's not going to give you any process level recommendations. It's not going to tell you what scopes are needed, what different transaction steps are required to do your end-to-end. So that's where the tool give you value add. Similarly, on the security roles, the existing readiness check, they're documented. It gives you, okay, these are all the roles you have. These roles are currently deployed to the end users. But it's not going to give you recommendations or what can be eliminated, what can be merged. How does these role eventually get into the S4HANA business tool concept? That is where the tool is going to help you to easily move forward, correct? So it's more a value add on top of what standard SAP does it. Similarly, interfaces, I know Sharath mentioned that the tool has the features to look at every interface point and then give you recommendations. It's not just interface recommendations from a technical layer. It's also going to tell you, hey, today you have an RFC function, which is deprecated. What exactly you have to do? So those recommendations comes as a value adds from the tool, because the standard readiness check will tell you, do you have these inventory? So it's only focused on the inventory. It's not going to give you recommendations on path forward. That is the value add from the tool. Similarly, not only just documenting it, it actually gives you like a nice action log for you to work upon it, like issue tracker or an action items. In an Excel list, or even in the system, you can see all these issues identified, which you can actually go through it and then also look at the recommendation for every issue that's actually identified. So essentially, it actually helps your migration journey overall. Next slide, please. And clean code is custom code is one of the key aspects. And as some of you probably heard, there are tools in the third-party tools, some of the native tools like Eclipse, which is given by SAP. They do help you to do the remediation. So it only focuses on remediating the existing code. But when it comes to clean code, for example, you have a Z table, Z program all together, or a module pool. Now, what's the replacement for it? When you talk about clean code, there are people talking about there's like a wrap model, cap model, more of technical programming methods. It actually gives a recommendation. Okay, this is what you have. If you have to go to clean code, these are the options, and then you can pick what exactly is more relevant for you. So that's the advantage of using the assessment tool. And not only documenting, it also creates a cookbooks. So again, as initially we talked about, the accelerators for your realize and explore phase. So these are documented in Excel like a cookbooks, which actually has like a definitive list of action items that we must perform. So that's the advantage of the tool itself. It will have all these readily available cookbooks for us. And the last thing is integration to Cloud ALM. Cloud ALM is a de facto project management tool. Not only project management tool, it's a application lifecycle management tool, which you will have to use eventually because there's no solution manager. All those other tools will be deprecated, part of the S4 journey. So in this Cloud ALM, you will have a starting point. You will have at least the solutions identified, scopes are defined. So at least you have a project chapter which is pre-populated based on your solution scope. So that's the advantage of the integrations. I know there's an integration also available for readiness check too. It does export the content, you can import it, but it's a very skeleton what SAP does it. So this is more comprehensive in terms of solution itself. So that's the advantage of the tool. Next slide, please. So just a couple of screenshots. I'm sure Jürgen is going to show in the system itself, in the demo. But how does actually it classifies? How does it present information to you? You can see by individual application area how many scopes are relevant for you, how many can be descoped. It gives you like a summary, for your organization. Next slide, please. And also and as we explained, all the customers are actually classified to process area. For example, in accounts payables, how many customizations you have in accounts payable. So it actually locks all of them. And for each and every customization, it actually gives you a recommendation. Like example, Z report, what exactly it does, what we need to do, part of your remediation. So it goes to that level of detail. So it actually helps you in the Explore workshops itself. Next slide, please. Again, a quick screen that shows how the metrics are captured for all the customizations, how many system has detected, how many can be resolved automatically, total how many you have, how many can be descoped, how many are in scope. So it basically breaks it down and also summarizes, at least you can estimate the total amount of effort involved for this entire custom code remediation too. So that's the advantage of using a tool like this. I think, and I'm going to hand over to Jürgen for the demo. So let's look at how the product looks like and what it can do for you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Madhu. I will now share my screen and start a presentation. Hope you can see it. All good?
Yes,
we can.
Great.
Let's start. So what I will show you now really is the overall interface of the tool, how the tool looks like. And there's a web UI, which I'm using now. And there's also, let's say, at the end, that's the outcome of the pre-assessment phase. There is, in addition to this, a PDF document, a Word document, which is shared with the customer, which which is shared with you, which has all the details in of what we figured out during the pre-assessment phase. So what I will do, I prepared a short demo environment, which is called Demo Phoenix S4HANA Private Cloud, or S4HANA Private. So it's similar. It's also on premise. What we can see here, I will jump now into the scoping, which gives you an idea about really how enriched the overall project really is and which kind of information we have for the overall project of S4. So I jump to the scoping view, and here would immediately see the overall scope of what is in S4. So on the top, you see information like the persona, which is using the system. On the bottom, you see the different areas, and you can drill down in each and every area to see the details. So for example, in the finance area, we have about 324 stories. I can click one level deeper, then I can see, oh, there is advanced financial operation with 23 stories. And I can click one level deeper, then I would see the details of the stories with some information about the effort to get it implemented or to get it really migrated, which is calculated in story points and which gives you the information why this effort is there. So it gives you the information about the configuration tasks which are there, the bodies which could be implemented or which are implemented in this area. Again, configuration tasks, migration tasks as well, and the print forms. They're all included, master data setup tasks. So all the different tasks you can do really to get really advanced credit management live is included here as well. So what you can immediately see, you can get the insights of what advanced credit management is all about with the information which is shared by SAP on the Signavio process charts, as well as information which we have really in regards to Q&A, so questions we are asking during a discovery phase and afterwards. So we are pre-filling really the answers really with the outcome, which we know really from the pre-assessment phase. But this needs to be for sure cross-checked and with the customer as well. And then these are the different questions where we pre-fill the answers and really cross-check them and with the customer then on the next step. Going back, what you can do on all the different levels, you can pick and choose what you want to have. You can switch off and on capabilities of the system. That's also useful for new implementation or for Bluefield or let's say hybrid implementation. You can switch off and on capabilities. You can switch off and on also personas using the system. And with this, you see really how many stories are de-scoped and how many stories are still in scope. And also the story points, the effort behind this. On each and every step, you can always look into the overall effort in a management summary. I will do it very quick because that's not the major intent of what I want to show now. But here you would see the management summary, which gives you some information about really what is in scope. Based on the scope I've clicked into today, and also the information about really if this is the scope, how long a discovery phase with the customer would take really in hours to get the things discussed, and then the high-level effort estimation really for the implementation of the overall solution based on best practices and based on the real key facts about really what needs to be configured and what is in. So we're talking in such an environment about 55,000 configuration tasks which have been potentially done. And what we do really, we are analyzing the ECC system, your old system, and we are doing this in a way really getting something installed on your system which grabs then all the information together, as Sharat and Madhu explained, where we get the information about the configuration, the usage of the system, and all the extensions, modifications which have been done in the system. And all this information is packed together in a zip file, sent over to us, and we are analyzing then this data. What we can do, or what we have, and just to give you a glimpse of an idea really how it works, once we get the data in a zip file, we use one dedicated file out of the zip file to say, okay, I want to start now. I want to get the information about really how the S4 system look like based on the information I got. And I take now just an example file really, which says, okay, this is really just an example with 8,000 scope items, which have been, or with 8,000 IMG activities, which have been done in the ECC system. Now I can say, start doing the exercise and really get the mapping done. This mapping will run a couple of minutes, so therefore I don't want to wait now together with you really to have the mapping done. But the outcome would be really the exact mapping, really how the overall solution in S4 would look like and what would be in scope in your S4 solution, what would not be in scope based on the current scope as of today. That's the first step of the overall exercise, how we're doing the pre-assessment. Now going back to show really how the result of this matching tool would really, what the result of the matching tool would be. It's a file which is then generated. What I can do here is I can say, I want to upload now the selection I've the map file, and let me choose now the download area with the file here. Here it is. It's already prepared. I did it today, and now it's uploading. And now you would immediately see, based on the ECC system you had in place, really, what of the S4 part is in scope and what is not in scope. We can do this based on the configuration, and we are talking about the 55,000 configuration activities you've done or potentially done really in the ECC system, where we have all the configuration content in, where we know really what was done and what was not done. We can even distinguish between different org units to see really what is in the scope of one org unit and what is in the scope of the other org unit. And based on this, we are building then the overall scope of the system and how the overall scope of the system would look like. This is really just the starting point. What we have in addition, and now I will jump over to what we are grabbing as well, is really, as I said, the modifications, the extensions, so the overall customizing you did in the system. And what I will show now is really, I will show you the result of the pre-assessment, or let's say the summary of the result of a pre-assessment. I will jump now into the backend system and immediately open up a file, or the file maybe is already open, just to see if I have it. No, it's not. I will open it now. It's the pre-assessment document for the demo, which I'm doing here. I say download. Now it's open up the file, and you would see now the document, which is then created based on really your ECC environment, based on your usage of the system, which gives you then the insights of really how the system looked like and how the migration would be done. Here would get the information about, let's say, overall it's a charter, the migration, then the pre-assessment summary, the business scope, the components, the modifications you have in the system, the extensions, the namespaces you have installed. In addition, the integration points. So how many integrations do you have? How do the surrounding landscape look like? The customer roles, which kind of customer roles do you have? How many are in the system? How many are used in the system? And also the way forward, really how to get these roles condensed, really, to streamline it, really to take the unique opportunity, really, during this system migration, really, to have them, let's say, a clean setup for the customer roles. And it also checks for sure the prerequisites for the migration, like is new chair live, is the business partner live, things like this. It proposes then the next steps and gives you the details about really the overall effort, how much it would cost really to get it done, how much time you need to spend, for example, also to sit together with the team really in discussing the scope in detail, because of we can recommend something based on what we see. But at the end, I think you should take the advantage, you should take the possibility really to learn what additional capabilities the system offers and what you should really also switch on. And this should be then done really in the kind of discovery workshop, but it gives you also the information really how long such a discovery workshop would take. And as well as the information, if this would be the scope which we see within the pre-assessment, how much the overall implementation, how long the overall implementation would take, and how big the overall estimation effort would be. Going into the details here, so you see the pre-assessment summary, what we are doing, how we are doing it, then you would get the information about the business scope for the different area, what is in scope, what is out of scope. Green means in scope, red means out of scope. Here is the distribution of the different scope items for the different application areas. Here again, really in a table format, what is in scope, what is out of scope. You would get the information about the components which have been installed. In addition, what we are doing there, we are distinguishing between the components we already know they're coming from SAP. They have a successor really also in the new world. For components where there is no clarity on really how to proceed, or where we need to at least have a deeper look into, or where we need to give a heads up saying, hey, there's a component coming from partner XYZ, and this component does not exist any longer in the S4 world, or how should we handle this component? Should we really migrate it manually in the sense of really to let it then run really also in the new world? Or is this component not any longer needed? And we also give some recommendation about really what is the components all for? And does it make sense really to keep the component, or could it be substituted by a standard functionality? Same for modifications. We're looking into the modification areas. We detect the different modifications. We check really how many of the modifications are resolved, and then really giving them also some insights about the different areas for the modifications, where the modifications are in. These are usually classified in application areas. So, okay, in this application area, you have this amount of modifications. Then same for extensions. In this special case, what I did here is really that's a more complex scenario where we had a carve out where we said a couple of extensions are not any longer needed in the future, and therefore we will not migrate them. And this is then really always, let's say, the package, the development class of the modifications, including the number of objects which are in there, including the number of effort, or the effort really to get it and really migrated. The same for the extensions which should be migrated and over to the new world. And again, then it's the same for the namespaces. It gives you the information about the additional namespaces which are installed, coming from maybe yourself or maybe from a partner, to see really how many objects are in and how much work it would be really to get them migrated over into the new world if you want to keep them. The integration points here is just a high-level information in. It says, okay, this is the amount of logical systems which are connected. This is the RC destinations which are in the bar piece being used. But in detail, we have all the details also on the web UI, where we can drill down and really see that these are the integration points, and this is then really the data which is sent over or which is received really by the ECC system today, and which should be then really be managed and also by the S4 system in the future. And for sure, for each and every integration which was there in the past, we recommend then really how the new integration model would look like and how the new integration would look like, the new API would look like really to get integrated with. So that's the complete cookbook we are offering for each and every question which is popping up, or for each and every action item which is there. We always have a very detailed cookbook which gives the information about how to get it resolved, and as a blueprint really for the migration as such. Same for the customer roles. Here you see the information about the customer roles. What we have in detail, we have the information about how the substitute of the customer role would look like, the future customer role for the customer roles which are there. We have a mapping then in place for the, in this case, it was 14,000 roles which the customer really had. And we said, okay, we can map it then really to, for sure, less than 14,000. And I think the mapping information is then also inside of the system, in the backend system available really on your fingertips. The prerequisites for the migration, exactly the same, gives you the information there. Proposed next steps, effort estimates behind is so shows really how many scope items are in scope and how long it would take really to get it discussed really within the discovery workshops, and how many are out of scope, really to go briefly through them to explain why they are out of scope. And this gives an overall effort really how big the discovery workshop would be. In this case, it was extremely big because of the customer had around about 10,000 customizations, or let's say coding extensions in the system, which is a fairly high number. And I think you need to really nail it down in the sense of really giving the customer the way forward, really how to manage really this extension. Same for the implementation. The main effort there for the implementation is based on the custom coding, the customization which exists in the system. And then you get a summary, and then you have the detailed information where you have all the scope items, which are then in scope, with the effort behind in story points. And in the details, you also have then really the scope ID coming from SAP, that you know really which kind of scope ID needs to be then really live and which kind of scope ID does not need to be live. That's mainly the overview. And for sure, this overall environment helps you also in the next one to really go then into the discovery phase, as well as into the workshops and into the implementation as such. And it always syncs up with Calm. And if you look into the workshop view just for a sec, it gives you the information there. And that's also, let's say, something which the tool offers really. So you just need to nominate the people which can speak for personas, and then really the overall calculation is automatically done, where you see then really these are the workshops which are needed. And for example, I will jump now into one dedicated workshop in the finance area, jump into it, see again really financial operation, advanced credit management. You can click on it. You can see really the story information. You can see the questions which need to be answered. You can write the answer down within the workshop and so on. I think that's more than for the next step. Now I will stop because we are talking about the pre-assessment. I hope I gave you now a little bit of glimpse of an idea really how the overall pre-assessment tool works and what you can expect really as an outcome from the pre-assessment tool. At the end, you will get a very clear picture about really the size of the project, which you need to do really to get a migration done. And the overall effort estimate behind, including then also the effort estimate on your side, really how often you need to work together with the project team to ensure really that you will get most of the S4HANA solution in the future. That's mainly it. With this, I will stop sharing and hand over back to the team.
Thank you for the wonderful demo, Jürgen. Just to summarize, I know today we basically covered the pre-assessment tool and how it can actually act as a catalyst for the entire S4 journey. So just to summarize quickly, it's going to look at your system, give you deeper insights on what exactly you have, how this can be retrofitted or migrated into S4HANA. So make sure that all the customizations are future-proof. Not only that, it also gives you like a comprehensive overview in terms of all your integrations, various solutions, scopes, and the cookbooks does give you a great help in terms of action items, what exactly we need to do for the migration, and an overall roadmap. So what's my roadmap for S4 is going to be? So that's the advantage of the pre-assessment tool. And feel free to talk to us for any further information. And next slide, please. Yeah, so we'll have a follow-up webinar. This is, as I mentioned, as Hanif initially mentioned, we have multiple tools. We'll have a subsequent webinar to talk about our actual data migration tool. So this webinar is focusing on the pre-assessment. Once we finalize this scope, how would we actually migrate your data and all your customizations from your existing ECC to S4HANA? So that's where we'll have a follow-up workshop to talk about, the webinar to talk about this data migration tool. So, please, I'm expecting all of you to again, sign up for the webinar too. And I think over to you. I think next slide, please. Yeah. So I think let's look at the question and answers. Sharad, do you have any Q&A, or Dustin, maybe?
Yep, sure thing. Thank you, Madhu. And I believe we have some questions in here. And also feel free, like I said, you can still put in some questions now if you have any at all. But here's one right now. So we have someone that asked, do you recommend moving your servers to the cloud before the migration to S4? And will the migration be more challenging if your servers are on-premise?
Okay, so let me take this question. Excellent question. So technically, it really does not matter whether your servers are on your data center or on the cloud. So it is more, preference of the customer. But there are certain limitations based on the existing database that you have. For example, if you're running on DB2, there are some recommendations we will provide what's the best approach is going to be. But the location of the servers technically doesn't matter.
Great. Yeah, great question. And there was another good question to follow just after that was the assessment tool could be used on-prem migrations, which you got.
Absolutely. This is actually meant for any migration from ECC. The target could be S4 private cloud or even the public cloud too. So it's actually going to give you your journey for growth, for any target S4, S4 environment, whether it's a grow or a rise, or even on-prem too.
Yeah, I want to add, Madhu, that it also works for BYD. So even if you have a BYD customer moving to S4.
Sure.
Another question here was, how about with HR structural authorization, PDP profiles, along with their custom relationships assigned to PCNs on the OM hierarchy? Would they also be migrated to S4HANA with the security rules?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So the security roles would, again, the security role system will flag them, but the concept like structural authorizations, also the position-based role assignments, some are deprecated in the S4HANA. For example, you really cannot use position and role relationships. You really have to use end user, roles have to be on the user level. The structural authorization concept is still valid in the S4HANA, and the data would come over as a relationships. So that is still valid in the S4HANA.
Great. And then there was one more question there, Madhu. It was just, is the IS utilities, which is electric, and FICA supported under the area for the solutions for specific industries?
Yes, so there are, if you have noticed the tool itself, we have a lot of industry-specific solutions. We have IS utilities, IS public sector, like that. So there is a specific section. When you go and evaluate the scoping, you'll have to pick up what industry you belong to, and it's going to present the solution scope for your industry.
Great. Thank you, Madhu. And thank you to everyone. Those were all fantastic questions. That is all we had in there for questions for now, which actually brings us to the conclusion of today's webinar, which we thank you very much for all taking the time to attend today. And as always, there's a QR code here. It'd be much appreciated if you could scan that and just give some feedback to us. It helps us a great deal, and then we can make these webinars more beneficial to you there with your feedback. And as well, with everything we've shown you today, and this being a rather brief webinar, if this is something you would like to expand more on and perhaps have a more one-on-one approach in looking at this tool, feel free to contact us via any method over there with our contact information. We would love to get back to you and perhaps show you more so how this smart transfer tool works more in depth, and also answer any questions you may have. But aside from that, we hope to see you at the next webinar, and appreciate you all showing up today. Thank you.